Get ready for Benjamin Knight Fuchs live on a Sunday early evening. Ben, how are you doing, my man?
What is up, Liam? Sorry I missed you last week. I had a busy
Yeah,
week, but we're back
me
on
too.
track here. Good to see
Me
you.
too. Yeah, I had a interesting. We were talking about fasting in our last conversation, and in August, meeting with friends, and so I was out. You know, having a summertime fun, not drinking maybe a little bit too much. So I kind of got out of the fasting thing. But after our conversation, I decided to do a nice, good, like you were saying, you don't need to do your supplements, or you can take a day off. So I took a day off.
Absolutely, you can take a day off. I think we talked about that. That's one of the common questions people ask about fasting is, can they take time, a day off their supplements and their fasting? And the answer is yes. You can take a day off from your supplements, particularly the fatty supplements, vitamins A, D, E, and K, and essential fatty acids, which are stored. It's probably it's probably more problematic to go a day without your water soluble vitamins, your electrolytes, but still one day is not going to make too big a deal. It's not going to cause too big a problem. I like to make sure I take my water soluble vitamins, my Beyond Tangy Tangerine electrolytes, and B vitamins every day. Even if I'm fasting, I still do it, but it's not the end of the world to skip a day.
Yeah, and with the Tangy Tangerine, I've heard others talk about this, but when you go to the bathroom, that your urine is a very light sort of green.
Yeah, well, it's actually it's yellow, and that yellow is riboflavin.
Okay.
Vitamin B2, which is actually yellow. Flavin means yellow. Riboflavin the name riboflavin refers to the fact that this molecule, vitamin B2, the riboflavin molecule, is yellow. And so as your body is eliminating it, your urine will tend to be yellow. It's not a big deal, but you can use that yellow color as an indicator of how hydrated or dehydrated you are. If it's really bright yellow, that could be a sign that you're not getting enough water, that you may be dehydrated.
Wow. Okay.
Right. So you want to, if you're doing a lot, it's hard to say whether it's an excess of vitamin B2 riboflavin or a shortage or a deficit of water. But you'll find that when you're drinking a lot of water, your urine tends to be lighter in color, and that's a good thing. You don't want your urine to have any bright colors. If that is the case, I would regard that as a sign that you may need to be drinking more H2O. And most people don't drink anywhere near enough water, in my opinion. Go ahead.
Yeah, I hear you. And at the before I broke I did like a 48-hour fast. The color changed to like a very dark, like Lipton tea, sort of brown. But the crazy thing was, I felt great, and I felt
Did you drink water during your fast?
Yes, I did. I was drinking water, but like you say, I don't know. I wasn't drinking like a huge amount of water.
Half a gallon a day.
Yeah, maybe about a half a gallon, and then
half a gallon's a good place to be. Try first thing in the morning. I drink a quart first thing in the morning. I guzzle down a quart of water, and it really gives you energy.
Yeah, it was so weird. And like the whole month of August, I was doing a lot of home improvements. So my elbow's been killing me, and my wrist has been killing me. So I haven't been able to like do any bench pressing. But that afternoon on that fast, I felt so good, and boom, I was able to bench press a good.
How when you bench pressed, how long had it been that you had fasted for while you were bench pressing?
It was toward the very end of the fast, so
you
it was like
20 hours or so.
36
You had eaten for 36 hours, and you got a really good workout on the bench press and in the gym.
And so I was going to ask you, is there anything associated, because we're talking about autophagy and the MMC, the body's
migrating motor complex,
bringing big and small garbage dump, from the cellular level on up, and is there does the body build muscle when you're fasting? That's the question I wanted to ask.
Well, it doesn't necessarily build muscle while you're fasting, but it does predispose you to building muscle, because the body is when you fast to the body, you're starving. There's no food around. So there's an evolutionarily selected for mechanism, meaning we're the descendants of ancestors who had this mechanism. That's what selection means. So there's an evolutionarily selected mechanism that will allow you to get stronger in an attempt to go find food from an evolutionary perspective. So the body prepares you when you don't have food. The body prepares you to go out and find food. And one of the ways it does that is it gives you more energy and makes you stronger. And that's one of the reasons why people will notice, like you notice that you're actually stronger if you let food, right? It
feels great.
And that's kind of counterintuitive. But that is the case, that you'll actually feel stronger, have more energy, be better able to handle the vicissitudes, the ups and downs of life. Plus, if you're working out, that could be used as a model. The bench press process. Of course, our evolutionary ancestors didn't bench press, but they had to go out. They had to go out and hunt. And so your bench press experience could be used as a model for what the body is used to doing from an evolutionary perspective under conditions of low calorie or calorie deficit, i.e. starvation conditions. So laying off of food is a good thing. And in our culture today, we have this idea that we got to keep eating and eating and eating in order to somehow be healthy. You know, one of the ways this manifests is when people have cancer, and doctors will say, oh, make sure you're getting your calories, make sure you're eating, right? When actually that may not necessarily be the case. And there's a lot of research that indicates that fasting and the ketogenic diet being a low calorie diet, can actually be helpful for helping reduce some of the symptoms, some of the problems, the immune problems associated with cancer. So I would venture to say in our 21st century culture in the United States of America, and likely around the world, that we overrate the importance of food. Not that you don't want to have food and not that you don't want to eat, but you want to kind of respect the process, respect the food and respect the digestive process. And as we're going to talk about today, there's a lot of symptoms, there's a lot of health symptoms or health issues that are associated with caloric intake that we don't often associate with calories. And that's what we're going to talk about here today, which is menopausal symptoms, specifically hot flashes. This is based on an article that I read last week when we were going to do this. This podcast or this video. There's a drug called Veoza, which is a medicine that's used to treat hot flashes. Previously, up until recently, when doctors gave medication for hot flashes, they were hormonal.
Right.
In the last few years, they've discovered that they can block a activating peptide, an activating nerve chemical that is associated with hot flashes. These nerve chemicals or these neural peptides are called neurokinins, and it actually turns out that the hormones that are associated with hot flashes, their mechanism is upregulation of neurokinins, stimulation of neurokinins. So under conditions of elevated hormones or hormonal changes, perhaps hormonal drops in hormones or increases in toxic estrogen, for example, which is really one of the problems with menopause, not so much estrogen, but toxic estrogen or progesterone deficiencies. It's actually this neural peptide, these neurokinins in the brain that are the immediate cause of what are called vasomotor symptoms, which is a fancy way of saying hot flashes and night sweats. And so the new drugs block these neurokinins, which drug companies thought was great. Now you don't have to have hormones, and hormones, of course, are associated with all kinds of problematic toxicities and side effects. But as it turns out, just last week, the FDA issued a warning that one of the most popular of these neurokinin antagonists or neurokinin blockers, Veoza, actually can cause, they say rare, but serious liver injury. Again, pointing to the fact that you just can't take a prescription drug and expect that nothing else is going to happen. Now, some people, and perhaps even most people, can take Veoza without having liver toxicity, but still, your body has to purify the Veoza. The Veoza is going to put a stress on the liver and on the detox system. And you can't take a prescription drug and not expect to have some kind of if you take a prescription drug, not to have some kind of put some kind of burden on the body. At the very least, your body has to detoxify that drug using magnesium and copper and vitamin C and zinc and various nutrients that are used to do other things. And now you're going to be deficient in these nutrients as they're rerouted to the liver to purify your Veoza or whatever drug you're taking. And at the end of the day, your hot flash is not a Veoza deficiency. Hot flash happen. You know, I have a lot of my friends now now that I'm in my 60s, a lot of my friends who are in their women friends who are in their 50s are going through some of these menopausal symptoms. And I'm talking to them, and I have friends who have had menopause, but they still have hot flashes and night sweats. They still can't, even after menopause.
I have friends like that too that have been having hot flashes for years.
Right. What does that tell you? It's not a menopausal issue. It's a biochemical issue, as we're going to talk about here. So why don't you I'm sorry, it's a disruption in biochemistry that is not necessarily associated with the hormonal changes that occur during menopause. Because even after menopause, I have friends, like you say, who are still getting hot flashes and still getting night sweats and still have some of the other unpleasant signs of menopause, including depression and obesity and weight gain. And really, we shouldn't be surprised. We've been talking now, you and I, for 2 or 3 months on these calls. Everything backtracks to the triangle of disease. We should not be surprised that the same connection between the triangle of disease and pathological symptoms of the body applies to night sweats, hot flashes, and all the other things that can that are associated with menopause, that we associate with menopause. So put the first slide up here. The relationship between hot flashes and fatty acid binding protein. Fatty acid binding protein is a marker of dysbiosis and intestinal disease. It turns out that fatty acid binding protein, as well as endotoxins, which are poisons that get into the blood through a leaky gut, are associated with hot flashes. This is an article from the Public Library of Science. This study shows that hot flashes are significantly associated with fatty acid binding protein. That is the marker of intestinal disease in postmenopausal women. It suggests that severe hot flashes are linked to an increase in intestinal barrier permeability and low-grade systemic inflammation. This would explain why you can be 3, 4, 5 years after menopause, you can still have hot flashes, because it's the leaky gut and the dysbiosis and the inflammation that is causing these symptoms to get blamed or attributed to menopause. Next slide. Vasomotor menopausal disorders as a possible result of dysfunction of the microbiome, microbiota, intestinal brain axis. This is an article from the Journal of Medicine and Life. Let's see here. The study involved clinical and laboratory examination of 54 women with vasomotor menopausal disorders. Again, vasomotor means the blood vessels are opening too much. This is what really causes hot flashes. The immediate cause of hot flashes are blood vessels opening, blood flows, you get hot. They call them vasomotor symptoms. The study revealed that these patients had a pronounced imbalance of intestinal of the intestinal microbiome, which was characterized by a significant decrease in the main representatives of the good bacteria and an increase in the number of the bad bacteria. Once again, dysbiosis, first point on the triangle of disease. And what's the second point on the triangle of disease? Next slide. Vasomotor symptoms and metabolic syndrome. Point number 2. Vasomotor symptoms are, this is from the journal Maturitas. Vasomotor symptoms are associated with sympathetic overactivity, which in turn is associated with metabolic syndrome. So what they're saying here is that it's part of the stress response. That feeling that women get, if you're a woman, you're out there and you're experiencing hot flashes or night sweats, you can understand, you can relate to calling it part of the stress response. It feels stressful. And this stress response of hot flashes and night sweats is a classic manifestation of sympathetic nervous system overdrive, which, as it says in this article, is in turn associated with changes in blood sugar and insulin sensitivity, i.e. metabolic syndrome. Next slide. Again, it's part of the stress response, night flashes, night sweats, and hot flashes. So we find from the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology, this study examined the relationship between cortisol and hot flashes. Conclusion: cortisol dysregulation was related to more frequent, severe, and bothersome daily reported hot flashes. What do you got here? Point 1, digestive system, dysbiosis, leaky gut. Point 2, metabolic syndrome. Point 3, elevated cortisol, all linked to night sweats, hot flashes, vasomotor symptoms, as well as some of the other symptoms associated with menopause, including weight gain and depression and skin problems, lack of drop in libido. All of these can be associated with the triangle of disease, which means you don't need Veoza. You don't need neurokinin antagonists. You don't need fancy schmancy pharmacology. And you certainly want to be very careful about using estrogen, which is on the FDA known to cause cancer list. Estrogen is a hugely problematic hormone from a supplemental, in terms of using as a supplement. It's an important hormone, obviously, but the body eliminates it quickly. Estrogen is the most toxic and most potent of all the hormones. I should say the most potent. In its breakdown version, it's the most toxic. But estrogen itself is a very powerful hormone. It's dosed in the tiniest of amounts pharmaceutically, and in the body, it's in the blood in the very tiniest amounts, and it has to be cleared out quickly. It's cleared out through the liver, also with from bile and the gallbladder. The intestine is important for estrogen detox, and many people are not detoxifying their estrogen correctly. Women especially, when estrogen is not detoxified and eliminated quickly, a toxic version of estrogen called catechol-estrogen can accumulate, and it's these catechol-estrogens that are associated with many of the problems linked to elevated estrogen, including growths and cancer and changes in changes in how the body handles sugar, in mood, in weight gain, in libido. So many problems, including cancer, associated with estrogen that is not really the estrogen, but the catechol estrogens. So what do you do if you're dealing with night sweats, hot flashes, menopausal symptoms, either perimenopausal, menopausal, or as we said, postmenopausal? Next slide. I absolutely love progesterone. It's a very, very underappreciated hormone. It's non-toxic, or relatively non-toxic. Still a hormone. You got to be a little bit careful with it, but it's available over the counter. It's almost like a 180-degree opposite of estrogen in terms of its potency and strength. Progesterone is at the top of the hormone, of the steroid hormone synthesis flow chart. It starts with cholesterol, and then it goes down to a couple other things. Then you got progesterone, then it goes down all the way to the bottom where you have estrogen. Progesterone is at the top, and this gives it a certain degree of non-toxicity and, I don't want to say weakness, but it's nowhere near as potent or as powerful as estrogen. This makes it safer and gentler, and this is why it's available over the counter. Yet, for all its gentleness and non-toxicity, it's a wonderful way to balance out estrogen. So much so, and catechol estrogens as well, so much so that a lot of hormone specialists are not sure if estrogenic symptoms as we get older, or as women get older, are due to elevated catechol estrogens or decreases in progesterone. As it turns out, you're always making estrogen. Even post-menopause, women are still making estrogen. As long as you're carrying body fat, you're making estrogen. But progesterone levels drop very steeply. So there's a lot of hormone experts and there's a lot of healthcare professionals, including myself, who will tell you that it's likely low levels of progesterone are causing some of these estrogenic symptoms. And by using progesterone to balance out that estrogen, you're not going to have to deal with any estrogenic toxicity or drug toxicity for that matter. And you can still get not only wonderful anti-menopausal symptom benefits, calming down of night sweats, cooling down of hot flashes. Progesterone can help with obesity. Progesterone is actually an anabolic building substance, so it can actually counteract some of the obesity effects associated with estrogen. Progesterone is calming on the body. Estrogen is very stimulating on the body. Progesterone is just a really, really nice hormone that's very underappreciated as a therapeutic modality, not just for women, but also for men. If you're interested in learning more about progesterone, you can contact me at my pharmacy, where I have a very, very nice topical progesterone treatment that doubles, it's not only a way of getting systemic progesterone into your body, but it doubles as a wonderful topical skin product. Next slide. And magnesium, along the same lines, is a very calming mineral. Magnesium and calcium antagonize each other. Calcium causes contractions. Magnesium relaxes things. And women, when they have their periods, are losing magnesium. Post-menopause, a lot of women are deficient in magnesium. In fact, magnesium deficiency is one of the more common, if not the most common, mineral deficiency. This is a study from This is support care in cancer. Quote, oral magnesium appears to have helped more than half of the patients and was well tolerated. This was a study that was done on women who had hot flashes associated with breast cancer treatment. And half of the women who were given oral magnesium had got benefits from supplementation. Now, magnesium deficiency, as I say, is very common, and magnesium supplements are great. There are also other benefits for magnesium, including helping you sleep. Magnesium has the calming effects of magnesium can help you fall asleep. Magnesium also is important for the blood sugar system. Magnesium plays a very, very important role for heart health, cardiovascular health. In fact, if you have a heart attack and you get wheeled into the emergency room, boom, they will put magnesium right into your heart. We used to, when I was working in the emergency room at the University Hospital as a pharmacist, we used to keep magnesium just everywhere, just in case people came in with a heart attack, or if people had a heart attack while they were patients. Mag sulfate, same magnesium that you get in supplements, or the same magnesium that you'll find in nuts and high protein foods. Magnesium is a little bit, to get the really good doses of magnesium, you want to supplement with magnesium rather than try to get it from foods. And one of the best things about magnesium is it's a great laxative. In fact, when people would come into the pharmacy and they'd have like severe constipation, there's sometimes people come in and they hadn't had a bowel movement for days or even for a week or two, we would give them mag citrate and or sometimes magnesium phosphate. And magnesium, the relaxing effects of magnesium, which are important for vasodilation, are also important for opening up the bowels and helping you have a bowel movement. And magnesium also helps pull water into the intestine, again, making it easier to have bowel movements. So lots of strategies if you're dealing with hot flashes or night sweats: progesterone, magnesium. Focus on the triangle of disease, work on eliminating problem foods. In fact, you'll notice, women out there who have hot flashes, you'll notice that there are certain foods that make it more likely that you'll have hot flashes or night sweats, especially sugary foods, not fatty foods, but foods that contain histamine, like cheese and fermented foods can do it. Wine can do it. And I notice a lot of women like wine and cheese. A lot of my menopausal or postmenopausal or perimenopausal women friends are loving their wine and cheese. So I don't want to rain on anybody's parade, because I like wine and cheese too, but you may want to see if there's links between your menopausal symptoms and what you're eating, including wine and cheese. And if you have blood sugar problems, if you've been diagnosed as a diabetic, if you notice that you're gaining weight as you get older, if you've got other signs of metabolic syndrome, such as cardiovascular issues or high blood pressure, you may want to start working on your blood sugar system by using nutrients that help your body process sugar: chromium, vanadium, the B vitamins, thiamine, especially, and niacin. Especially niacin, also, by the way, can be beneficial for menopausal symptoms. Stay away. You don't want the niacin flush for people who get the niacin flush. We'll talk about the niacin flush on another episode here. In any case, working on blood sugar can be very important. If you're using longevity products, get on the sweeties, and then relax. You can use progesterone to relax. There's another wonderful supplement called pregnenolone that you can get at health food stores or on Amazon that will help you relax. Longevity has a great product called Zero Fem, which may help you with menopausal symptoms. And you don't need to go with prescription drugs, people, and you don't need hormone therapy. If you're going to go hormone therapy, go progesterone or pregnenolone. But these drugs, that block the neuropeptides in the brain, they're not in your interest. And there's much better strategies that you can use that are not only non-toxic, but will give you other benefits, anti-aging benefits. And instead of taking years off your life, they're going to add years to your life. Instead of putting a burden on the body, they're going to be supporting your body. And that's really how we want to look at health. Disease is not the absence of medical intervention. Menopausal symptoms are not Veoza deficiency disease symptoms.
Great information, Ben. This is a hot topic. We have some questions from YouTube. We have the lovely Judy Luce. Yes, you are spot on.
What does Judy say?
Get stressed, then follows a hot flash.
There you go. It's obvious, right?
And she also continues, I am thin exercise, low carb, and fast every day. Eliminate processed and sugar. I use Ben's supplements and skincare. I wish we had enough. We would give it up for Judy. Thank you so much, Judy. Outstanding. Well, if you have any more questions or comments out there, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever you might be, don't be afraid. We love it and appreciate each and every one of you tuning in and commenting. That was fantastic, Ben. That was
thank you, Liam, and thank you, Judy, and thank you to all our other listeners and viewers. And we'll be back at you next Sunday.
We'll be back at you next Sunday. All right, everybody.